What is up everyone, Mule Kick Media here, and today we're going to be doing more review for Season 1 of Banshee. Now, Season 4 of Banshee, which is of course, unfortunately, and pains me to say it, the last season of Banshee, hits DVD in, I believe, the 31st of October in the UK. So to celebrate that, I'm going to be doing a review for all of the seasons of what is, in my opinion, easily the best show on TV, other than Breaking Bad. It is just that amazing a TV show, and so highly underrated that I felt like I really wanted to do my own reviews for each season of Banshee, because I mean, I've already talked about this show in a previous video, I've done a tribute video for it, but I really wanted to talk about the seasons individually and tell you why I love this show so much in more detail than I was probably able to do in my first video. So this is going to be my review for Season 1. I'm going to try my best to keep it spoiler-free, because obviously I want you guys to go ahead and watch this show. If I haven't already made it, evidently clear with what I post on Twitter or on the channel, you need to watch this show. It is amazing. It blew me away when I watched the first season all the way back in 2013, and it just continued to blow me away right up until those final moments of Season 4. It just kept on blowing my mind to the point where I just knew this show was amazing and something special. So that's enough of me rambling. Let's get into my review for Season 1 of Banshee now. So I'm going to reiterate the story that I've already told you many times of how I actually got into Banshee. Now, this happened about, I first watched Banshee, I think like 2 to 3 weeks after Breaking Bad had finished airing in the UK, because the season finale, or should I say series finale, obviously happened. And for 2 to 3 weeks, I was just, kind of sitting back, taking in everything that I watched of Breaking Bad. And then straight afterwards, I wanted to find a new show to watch. And so I was scrolling through my Skybox, and I came across this show. It's a trailer for Season 1 of it. And it was a show called Banshee. And all the episodes were now available on Sky On Demand. And I was able to actually go ahead and watch all of the episodes on there, and I was blown away. I'm pretty sure I binge watched them all within about 3 days. It was that amazing. I was just so engrossed when I watched it. I just felt to myself, I have to get through all of these in a minimum under a week, because they were just so awesome to watch. It was just this show that really, when you watch one episode, you're like, okay, maybe just one more, and then you just keep on watching another one, and another one, and it's that kind of show. It's so addictive to watch, and it's just awesome. So let's just get into Season 1. So let's get into the, of course, synopsis of the plot for Season 1. It's going to be quite hard to explain the plot for this show, but that's only because of the premise and all the backstory behind it, but I'm going to try and do my best job, so here we go. The story is about a ex-con who gets out of prison after serving 15 years, after being locked up for stealing a bunch of diamonds from a ruthless Ukrainian mob boss called Rabbit. When he gets out, he decides to go and find his former accomplice and lover, Anastasia, who also happens to be Rabbit's daughter. He finds out that she's now taken a new name, Carrie Hopewell, and lives in the small town of Banshee, Pennsylvania, where she is hiding from Rabbit. The ex-con sets out to find her. However, it turns out that she's already married to the DA of the town and has 2 children. The ex-con then stumbles into a bar where he meets Sugar Bates, a former wrestler who now runs the Forge Bar in the town of Banshee. When 2 criminals come in and attempt to steal money off of Sugar, the cop known as Lucas Hood tries to intervene and stop the crime. However, he ends up getting killed in the resulting shootout, and the ex-con and Sugar decide to go and bury his body. However, his phone ends up going off, and it turns out that Mayor Dan Kendall is expecting a meeting with him tomorrow. It turns out the new sheriff is actually from Oregon, and no one in the town has actually seen what he looks like. As a result, the ex-con decides to take up the identity of Lucas Hood to be able to get closer to Anna and try to rekindle his relationship with her. This leads him to becoming the sheriff of the police department and trying to dig out justice while also trying to reconcile with Anna. Now, I'm not going to say any more about the plot, because that's kind of what the real plot of Season 1 is. It's about this ex-con who becomes a cop, and he has to try and juggle this life of doing, these shady activities, and trying to, reconcile with Anna, while also trying to, serve the law, obviously, because he's the sheriff of the town. And it was just so awesome. It was such an epic concept to have a criminal playing a cop. It's something that I don't really feel as if we've seen very often in TV, even though it's kind of like an ingenious idea. But we don't really see it that often, and Banshee does it really, really well. The story does get mad at times, like so much stuff is happening, but it's a really well done story for a show. I was really happy with the story that we got. It was just good how we got to learn more and more about the characters. We got to learn more about, Lucas's past over the course of the episodes, because we start to get flashbacks, like minor flashbacks to his time in the prison. And I really liked how these flashbacks were implemented. Like, for example, there's episode 3 where there's a fight scene in there, and the flashbacks are used to relate to moves that he actually learnt when he got his ass kicked in prison to, in turn kick the ass of the person he's fighting in that episode. And I felt like it was really cool how they were able to do that. The story was just really, really well handled. It was very well paced. It had an awesome, send off with the finale. It was really, really good. And I really just did love the story. I mean, like I said, it does get kind of crazy at times, but that's because the show doesn't take itself too seriously. But I really did like the story, and just how it played out was really, really cool. So now let's get into the pros and cons for this season. The first pro I have to give this show is the characters. The characters in this show are absolutely awesome. Like, I really connected with all these characters immediately after this first season. I really, got to care about them, and you get to learn more about their personality, and I just thought how they were able to do it was just really, really good. Anthony Starr as Lucas Hood, such an underrated actor in this role. He is unbelievable. I never heard of this guy when I originally went in to watch the show. In fact, I'm pretty sure I didn't know who any of the cast were walking into this, other than I think Ivana Milicevic, I think how you pronounce her name, portrays Anna, and I know that she was in Casino Royale, but that was about it. I didn't know anybody else in the cast when I watched this show, but they are all just so amazing. Like, how on earth did they find these guys? Like, the people in this show, really good actors. I don't know how on earth I didn't know of them beforehand, because they're so awesome. I mean, you got Lucas Hood, amazing character. We get to learn so much more about him as the show goes on, and it was really, really cool to see that. Carrie/Anna, she was really cool of how she had to, juggle, her trying to, get Hood out of her life while also trying to keep him away from her family, who obviously don't know her past. You've got Sugar, who's, of course, like, he knows that Lucas Hood is a con. He's not, actually, the real sheriff. But, if you got his character, he's really cool. It's just... And the reason his character is awesome is because of the banter that he has with a certain character called Job, who worked with Anna and Lucas before he went to jail. And oh my god, his character is awesome. He's easily, in my opinion, the best character on the whole show. He is just amazing. He's this transgender computer hacker, and his personality is just so good. I mean, Hoon Lee, the actor who portrays him, just does such an amazing job. You can tell he's having loads of fun when the camera is on him. It's just awesome to watch him on screen. He's just really, really cool, and I think he's a character that you will fall in love with, because he's just so funny and outlandish that he's just great. And I mean, that's the thing, all these characters are just so amazing, and the acting is just fantastic. I could say the same thing for all the characters, but otherwise I'd be rambling here for like 20 minutes about how awesome the show is, which I could do, but you'd probably all get bored. So I think you've got the point. The acting and the characters are just awesome, and it just gets even better in the future seasons. But for season 1, it was just so good how they did the characters. Another thing that I really liked about this season was, of course, the other thing that Banshee does really well, the action. The action on this show is just flat out amazing. Like, how they film this stuff with the budget that they're on, because according to reports, Banshee doesn't have that massive a budget for an action show, but the action they shoot here is just so good. The fist fights are amazing. Banshee Season 1's fist fights were awesome. There are so many awesome fist fights in the show. I mean, there's one in Episode 3, which is pretty awesome. There's one in Episode 4, Episode 6. There's so many. Like, they're just unbelievable. And how well they are choreographed and styled. They all feel quite different to each other. Not just because of the emotional aspect, but also the context behind them. It's just awesome. Like, I mean, you've got a fight scene that, is about, one character kind of getting revenge on the other. One's more of like a survivalist one or an ambush one. It was just awesome to see these action scenes. And also the set pieces as well that they have on the show, which they do have sometimes, are really well shot. And what really did surprise me was how most of these scenes are actually CGI. Like, quite a lot of CGI is used for the action set pieces, but I could not notice it the first time. And you remember me saying this in my blind spot review. There's obviously the bus flip in the pilot episode, which the bus itself was made completely out of CGI, and all the cars running at Lucas are also made from CGI. And when I watched this the first time, I had no clue this was CGI. I had to go and look up online the behind the scenes video to find out that this was all CGI. Like, this was crazy, because first time watching it, I was convinced those cars were real. Maybe not so much of the bus, but when the cars were coming towards him, I was like, did they actually just film that in real like time? And then finding out it was CGI, it was like ridiculous, like really good special effects. And there's also like this car flip that happens in episode 4. That was pretty cool as well. And that car being flipped, that was CGI as well, and that looks awesome. Like, just the action in general is really well shot, really good. In my opinion, this is probably the best action on a TV show ever. Season 1 was just so good. I mean, it gets better in the future seasons, but Season 1's action is just like ridiculous. And then you've also got the other things that I really liked about this season was, you know, the fact of how well the flashbacks were implemented. Like I said earlier on the story, how they used to relate to certain things that Lucas Hood does in present day and how they relate them to his flashbacks. Like, there's a particular episode in the season which is kind of like fully dedicated to the flashbacks, and that episode was really good because it really does show you how much Lucas had to change as a person to overcome the challenges that he faced in that prison, and it was just so awesome to see. And it really makes you understand why, you know, that the whole going in prison for 15 years, what it did to him mentally. It was just really, really cool. And I guess the other positive I can say about the show is just that it just knows how to, you know, do good payoffs to storylines, and I think the thing I could say about it is it feels so cinematic when you're watching it, because of course it's distributed by Cinemax, which is actually a sister station of HBO, who you'll probably know for, you know, Game of Thrones. In fact, this show was actually meant to be on HBO, but I think it got moved to Cinemax because they wanted more original programming. And when I tell these people, oh, this show is made by Cinemax, everyone just thinks, oh, it's going to be awful because, you know, most stuff that's on Cinemax isn't that good. That's a lie. This is epic. And before I just put it out there, because it was kind of an awesome fact to think, you know, HBO could have had this, but they said no. I bet they're regretting that decision right now, because honestly, this show is amazing. But let's get back on topic. So the show just feels really cinematic with every episode, and it's because it's airing on Cinemax, which is a premium cable channel. There is no adverts, you know, during any of the episodes, and so because of that, it feels like you're watching like a 45-minute to, you know, an hour-long movie. It really does feel like it, because not only because of how it's shot, but because of those lack of adverts or, like, you know, TV advert cliffhangers that you have in shows like Arrow. I mean, it really does make it feel as if you are watching a movie, and it all goes along a really good pace, and that's something I have to commend the showrunners for doing. They just shoot each episode so well, and each episode feels so different. I mean, you've got the pilot episode, which is about introducing Hood. The second episode is obviously about a massive rave going on. The third episode about an MMA fighter. Fourth episode is basically like a load of hillbilly brothers getting revenge. You've got the fifth episode, which is you know, like a load of a biker gang. Sixth episode is the flashback episode. Every episode felt really different, and there was no filler episodes. They all felt necessary to the plot, which definitely applies to some shows, preferably Arrow, where they're just cramming these filler episodes, but they don't have that in Banshee. No episode in Banshee Season 1 feels like filler. It feels like it's there to serve a purpose for the story, and it's just awesome how it's done. And that is really my positives for this season. I don't really have any cons with it, to be honest, because I really just loved this first season. I mean, just the only difference is, I would say this is the weakest season of Banshee, but even saying that, this is still amazing. Like, it's just that the future season just got better and better to the point where it's just like masterpiece worthy. But there are no cons I can think of when it comes to season 1. I loved it that much. So with the pros and cons out of the way, because there was no cons at all, we're going to get into the final rating for this season. And I'm going to give this season a 9.6 out of 10. I really, really dug this season when I watched it. I went back and rewatched it, a couple of years ago, I think, before the third season released, and I rewatched it again, I believe, within the last month, and it's just as awesome as I remember it. A great show. Definitely pick up the first season. It's actually pretty cheap. I think you can buy it for like £10 because, like I said, there's only 10 episodes in it. It's just really good, very cinematic, great story, great characters and acting, great action, moves along at an incredibly good pace. It's just amazing. Check out this first season. So yeah, my final score is, of course, a 9.6 out of 10. Thank you all for watching the video. If you want to see me do a review for Season 2, which I probably will be doing anyway, but go tell me in the comments if you want a Season 2 review. Definitely recommend you watch Season 1. Absolutely amazing. Watch this show. It deserves your attention. And yeah, thank you all for watching, and I hope to see you again next time.